Pitching is the name of the game. Baseball's action begins on the mound, and the final result is decided on the mound. Any manager will gladly tell you that pitching wins pennants, and any pitcher will tell you that the responsibility is great, but the rewards are greater. Major League Baseball, in cooperation with General Mills, brings you all-star pitching tips.
He paced the American League in victories and winning percentage 3 times, and in earned run average and shutouts twice. He won the Cy Young Award in 1961. He set the World Series standard for games pitched, 22, innings pitched, 146, wins, 10, and strikeouts, 94, and with 33 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings in World Series play. Those World Series records, which are unique with him, prove that he was one of the greatest clutch performers in the history of our game. Whitey Ford.
I'm Whitey Ford, and I suppose it's only natural for me to view pitching as baseball's most glamorous position. It's also responsibility, because it can take 100 or more pitches to win a game, but just one mistake to lose it. However, the man on the mound has a lot going for him, and one of his best friends is control.
Actually, I think control probably is the biggest part of pitching. And even so, nowadays with AstroTurf ballparks and it seems to be a thing of the future, I think it's made control even more and more important. And a lot of people have asked what we can do to acquire that control. And I think probably one word can sum it up better than anything else, and that's concentration. Because I think if you can concentrate and have an idea in your mind as to what you want to do with the ball and where you want to throw it, and go out and practice those things, I think this is the one way that anyone can acquire control.
I think that the only way that you can practice control is to go out and pitch. You can throw on the sidelines and it'll help. Of course, in a ball game is really when you learn control. There are a lot of things that you can do to improve your control, but the basic thing is to throw, to throw, to throw. And when you throw, have an idea of what you're trying to do. You have a catcher who's sitting behind the plate, and when you look back there, you don't just see the catcher, you see various spots of the catcher. You see his left knee, or his right knee, or his right shoulder, or his left shoulder. And whenever you try to throw at the catcher, don't just throw right in the middle of the catcher. You try to aim at either one corner or the other.
Another control pitcher who has some helpful hints about your overall pitching motion is Tom Seaver.
Assume a comfortable position on the mound. I think that's most important. Keep the ball in the glove. Keep the ball out of the hitter's view for as long as you possibly can. I think that's an important factor in pitching. Take a comfortable position on the mound, whatever is comfortable for you. Some pitchers like to bend over. Some pitchers like to be in back of the mound like this. Some like to have their other foot in front of the mound. You have your pitching toe on the rubber. Hands down, however you like them, just get a comfortable position so you can concentrate on your catcher's signals. The next is to go in and get your grip on the ball. Still, not letting the hitter see the ball. right? And not letting see what grip you're going to use on the ball. You reach in and get your grip. Now, this is the kind of delivery that I will use, and I find most comfortable and allows me to use the bigger muscles of my body. I take one step behind the rubber, my hands go behind my head, okay? Behind the head. Now I transfer my weight back to my right foot. My weight has gone to my left foot, now my weight comes back to my right foot. My hand, the hitter cannot see the ball as yet, and he will not see it until it comes out of my glove. I transfer my weight to my right foot and bring my left leg up so I can drive to home plate. And this is one point where I stop and get everything together. It's like a backswing in golf, let's say, where you get your backswing here and then you swing. Well, that's what this is, right? Here, now I've reached the top of my backswing, let's say. I've got everything together and I'm stopping just for a moment. My next movement is to bring the ball out of the glove and reach toward home plate as I'm striding with my left foot toward home plate, landing on the ball of my foot, all right? Taking the ball out of the glove, reaching toward home plate as I'm striding toward home plate with my left foot, hitting on the ball of my foot, keeping the left side of my body closed, my shoulders, my hips, and my knee closed. As I hit like this, now I start to open up. My shoulder will open up, my hip will come around, and my knee will come around. I've come into pitching position like this, okay, and everything will come out at the same time. My chest will open up, my hips will open up, and it'll give me a greater arm speed and release toward home plate. Now that I've released the ball, I take a short crow hop when I'm to get into a correct fielding position. I try and end up where my feet are square to home plate. And remember, once you've delivered the ball to home plate, you're now an infielder, and you must be ready to field your position.
Good fielding is a terrific help. Many managers remind pitchers that they're the team's fifth infielder. Perhaps one of the most important plays, fielding-wise, for a pitcher is covering first base. It's probably going to happen more often in a game than any other play. I'm going to try and demonstrate, but the main idea when covering first base is not go in a straight line between the mound and first. The idea is to cut over to the foul line, maybe 10 or 15 feet in front of the bag, and then run right up the line, trying to be ahead of the runner, and take the throw from the first baseman that way. I'll try and demonstrate it. You run over here, and just about 15 feet, you run straight up the bag and take the throw. Be sure if the first baseman has dropped the ball that you stop and you become a first baseman so you can feel that ball if he throws it back here or over in front of you. If the first baseman has fielded the ball cleanly and has delivered it to you a step or two before you get to first base, be sure that you stay on the infield side of first base to avoid any collision with the base runner. The proper use of footwork is as helpful up on the mound as it is in fielding. Bob Gibson depends on the pitching rubber for that little something extra.
The rubber is used to help you propel the ball toward home plate. A lot of times you'll see guys standing up and try to pitch on top of the rubber, which is incorrect. What you do is you use the rubber to your advantage. Now, regardless of whether you're a left-hander or right-hander, you're going to use it the same way. In my motion, I keep my left foot slightly behind the rubber. And when I start my wind-up and I get ready to throw, I pick my foot up, turn it sideways so as to push off against the rubber. I use the rubber to help me push toward home plate. That way it helped me get a little bit extra on the ball. If I try to pitch off the top of the rubber, a lot of times you'll find a guy stumbling and falling, and he's not really using the rubber to his advantage. So remember, you have to pick your foot up, turn it sideways, so as to have part of your foot on the rubber, the other part on the ground. And then when you get ready to throw the ball, you push. You use the rubber to push.
That solid push-off from the inside of the rubber is what gives the majors' top pitching stars their forward momentum for the delivery.
And then I'm concerned with the motion of my arm. I stretch my arm out. I make sure that my arm is pretty much a 90-degree angle from the ground. This way I know that I'm throwing the ball properly. A lot of times if you get the ball out here, you'll hurt yourself, or if you try to get it too much on top, you end up throwing the ball in the dirt. So what you try to do is to get it pretty much a 90-degree angle from here, parallel with the ground, and then up. And then on my follow-through is also important. A lot of times you'll see where youngsters over-exaggerate getting the ball down, but that's not true. If you throw the ball hard, your normal body motion is going to carry your body through with the correct follow-through. Once you get through with your follow-through, then you have to do whatever it is to field.
Of course, fielding remains just a thought when the batter strikes out. And during the 1974 season, Bob Gibson became the second pitcher in history to reach the magic 3,000 strikeout level. Pitching and throwing are two different worlds, but the pitcher will survive a lot longer than the thrower. Here's Mike Marshall with some pitching philosophy.
You must have, to be a good pitcher, an effective fastball, good velocity with it, a breaking pitch that you can throw for strike anytime you want, and an off-speed pitch. I don't care what the off-speed pitch is, just something that is a change of pace. When you're trying to get a hitter out, as a pitcher, you throw him a fastball to speed up his bat, to make him have to react quickly. Then you throw him the off-speed pitch to get him out in front. Then you throw him the breaking ball, and he thinks it's a fastball, and he swings, and it breaks under his bat. The idea here is you're constantly keeping that hitter off stride so that he can't put that good swing on your pitches. He has to then shorten up and just try to make contact with the ball. Many pitchers in the major leagues now just go out there and try to throw the ball as hard as they can. A hard fastball, a hard slider, all the same velocity. Doesn't take a hitter very long to get accustomed to that velocity and time his swing to it, and sooner or later they're going to hit him hard. A good pitcher, not a thrower now, as many ball players are, or better major league pitchers are, but a good pitcher will attempt to vary speeds on his pitches. He'll attempt to move the ball in and out, try to keep that hitter off stride. What I think the responsibility of myself is, as a pitcher and all pitchers, is to keep the hitter from stinging the ball hard. If you can make him just make contact with the ball, keep the ball in front of the outfielders, keep the ball on the ground, then you've done your job as a pitcher. Now, maybe some of those hits will get over the infield and they'll be hits, but you've done your job. You've taken the sting out of his bat. You've made him swing without all the force he'd like to have generated.
If there's one pitch I throw more than any other, I guess it's my screwball. I really have to depend on it to get the side out. And you know, if there's one meal of the day I really depend on, it's breakfast. Oh, sure, if I miss lunch or dinner, I'm going to definitely get hungry. But if I miss breakfast, it could just affect my game. Food specialists at General Mills agree with me. They say it's the most important meal of the day, that after 10 or 12 hours without eating, you need a good breakfast to provide body energy and vital nutrients. A breakfast like this, for example. Juice for vitamin C, cereal with milk, a couple of slices of toast or rolls, and a man-sized glass of milk. Take my word for it. Eat a good breakfast, and you might feel like doing more. Your reaction should be sharper, and you gotta believe, just maybe, you'll be able to get a little more stuff on that high, hard one.
A good pitcher should have a moving fastball, a sharp breaking curve, and a change of pace. Let's look at these three basic pitches, starting with the fastball and Nolan Ryan.
The fastball is thrown with several grips. Personally, I throw it across the seam with the intentions of trying to make my ball rise when it comes into a hitter, and that's particularly held like this. Now, a ball that is thrown with the seams has a tendency to ride in on a right-handed hitter if thrown by a right-hander, or pitchers that are known as sinker ball pitchers will also hold the ball in this manner and release it in such a way that the ball does sink. And I think the main thing on a fastball is that it's a control ball. You have to throw it for strikes, and that the grip is important to the point that you have to know that your grip is the way you want it and that you have confidence in it, so when you release the ball that it feels right and you have a good idea of where the ball is actually going.
Nolan Ryan experienced control problems early in his career, but once he got that fastball to the point that he knew where it was going, he became Nolan No-Hit Ryan, with 2 no-hitters in a single season.
Main thing when the grip on the baseball on every pitch, is a little bit different and everything, but the motion has got to be the same that the hitter would pick it up. So when you get up there on the mound, you start to pitch, you know your motion's going to be the same for the hitter can't pick it up, and then the grip on the baseball is going to be a little different. On your breaking ball, you hold it with the seams where you put more pressure on the seam before you can spin the ball off the end of your fingers. And on the fastball, the ball comes off the tips of your fingers when you hold it with the seam to make it sink a little bit. And when you hold it across the seams, the fastball comes off, you still got it on the seams, and your fingers make the ball spin up a little bit, and it starts rising when it comes in the home plate.
Being known as a curveball pitcher, I think makes my fastball a little more effective. I have to get ahead of the hitters with my fastball, and in a tight situation, if I need an out, I'm going to rely on my curveball. My curveball, I believe, is my strikeout pitch. When I'm in a tight situation, maybe with a man on first and third with one or no outs, I'm going to rely more on my curveball to get the ground ball or maybe to get the pop-up. And my curveball truly is my strikeout pitch. I throw my fastball and curveball the same way. I think what's very important to me is I have all four seams on the baseball working for me. My two fingers here are working on this seam here. My thumb is working on this lower seam to get the good grip, to get the good push off my thumb. And I believe my ring finger, I believe it's my guiding finger. And I lay it against the seam underneath the ball here. And as I throw the ball, I try not to start the curveball over my head, but just as my fastball at the last second, release the ball. And I believe the important part on throwing the curveball is your wrist. Not to start the curveball over your head, but to get the good release point once you're out in front, and the snap of the ball, and mainly to pick up your target and a good follow-through. And the biggest thing on a curveball, you have to follow through or your curveball is going to be up.
Now let's take a more detailed look at Bert Blyleven's curveball technique. Notice how he waits until his arm and wrist are out in front of his body before turning the ball over. You must bend your back, snap your wrist, and then follow through with an overhand motion in order to get maximum spin on the ball. This gives the pitch the proper rotation and downward spin necessary to force the batter to swing and miss or hit it on the ground.
The change of pace pitch, or the change-up, which is a better term for it, has been talked about quite a bit in baseball, and I know there's 1,000 ways of throwing a change-up. And the general idea of the change-up is to try and throw the ball as hard as you can with an arm motion that looks similar to a fastball-type motion, and yet you're killing the speed of the ball, and the idea is to try and fool the hitter with the speed of the pitch. There are many great pitchers that have taught different ways of throwing the changeup, and I think that generally speaking, the best way that you can throw the pitch and control it and kill the speed of it with a good arm motion is the best way to throw a changeup. Some of the different methods that pitchers use is that they hold the ball slightly inside the palm and put pressure on the knuckles of the fingers, and this is generally the straight over the top changeup where they either throw it with 2 fingers or 3 fingers, and they try to pull the shade down, so to speak, and give that baseball backward spin in this direction. And of course, with a good arm motion, they're able to kill that pitch, and it looks like a good fastball coming up to the hitter. One of the other methods of throwing a changeup is to put the ball entirely back into the palm, as far back into the hand as you can get it. And of course, this is called a palm ball, or slip pitch is another word for it. And the speed of the ball can be killed in this way very easily. And of course, again, the secret is the arm action, being able to throw the ball as hard as you can and killing the speed and controlling it.
Another pitch thrown by major league pitchers is a slider. I don't recommend it for boys, young boys especially. Possibly when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you can start throwing it. But a slider is held, well, I held all my pitches the same. I would put my 2 fingers there for the fastball, curve, and changeup, and I held the slider the same way. Now, a slider, well, first of all, a fastball, when you release it, comes out of your fingers that way. A curveball, when you release it, you bend that wrist and get it spinning that way. A slider is in between a fastball and a curve. The idea of a slider is to throw it just like a fastball, but right at the last second, just pop those wrists a little bit to get that ball spinning. to give the batter the impression when he's up there hitting that it's going to be a fastball, and then maybe 8 or 10 feet before it gets to home plate, it'll break anywhere from 4, 6, 8, 10 inches. Here's the visual difference between a curve and a slider. This curve has a sharp and distinctive break to it. Now we'll see 2 consecutive sliders where the break is much more subtle and occurs only at the tail end of the pitch. We mentioned the curveball before, breaking the wrist here and making that ball spin this way. Well, the screwball is another pitch, and it would be almost the opposite of a curveball. Instead of the curve going that way, a screwball is a pitch that turns the opposite way. Mike Cuellar has a real fine one, Mike Marshall. So the idea of a screwball is when it leaves your hand that it's turning this way, and if a left-hander like myself were to throw it to a right-hander, it would go away, whereas my curveball would come down and into a right-handed hitter. A screwball would probably go down and away to a right-handed hitter, and it has just the opposite rotation of a curveball. Here we see Mike Cuellar's left-handed screwball moving away from a right-handed hitter. Now the right-handed screwball of Mike Marshall rotates away from a left-handed batter. There are various ways to throw a knuckleball. Wilbur Wood and Phil Niekro probably are the 2 best knuckleball pitchers in baseball today. But the idea of a knuckleball is you can grip it this way. Some pitchers use 3 fingers. But the idea is when you release that ball, that it comes out and it's not rotating. It's just coming out straight. And the wind currents hitting the ball on its way to the plate will make a knuckleball do crazy things. The knuckler is truly perplexing for the batter as it floats up slowly and appears to be very hittable, but looks are very deceiving as far as the knuckleball is concerned. Now that we've covered the various pitches, let's go back to the basics for a quick review. Warm up properly no matter what position you play. Never rush into action without getting your arm loose first. Proper pregame preparation will help prevent injury to your pitching arm. Work on the mechanics of pitching, a smooth delivery, hiding the ball, push off from the pitching rubber, follow through, and be ready to field. The entire body is used in pitching. Learn to use the big muscles located in your back, rear, and legs. This will add velocity to your pitches and save wear and tear on your arm. Don't tip off your pitches. You change your grip on the ball, but not your delivery. The best method is overhand, so if possible, learn to throw all of your pitches over the top. Learn to throw as hard as you can for strikes. There's times to throw breaking pitches later on. You might even try 2 types of fastball, one with an across-the-seam grip, the other gripping the ball with the seams. Control is the most important requirement of good pitching. Learn to throw strikes, then learn to throw to spots and see how quickly you'll gain the reputation of pitcher instead of thrower. Concentration improves your all-around ability as a complete pitcher. Keep your mind glued to the job at hand. Total concentration is the final step to the major leagues. We asked our all-star pitching staff if they had one final piece of advice for future big leaguers, and here's what they said.
Many people have thought that you had to be a big man in order to be a pitcher. You don't have to be. You just have to be able to throw the pitches with control. You have to have a breaking pitch and a changeup. If you have a desire to continue on in baseball professionally, I think that's excellent. You should work at it very, very hard.
The main thing is to do is when you go out there to play baseball, make sure your arm is loose. Make sure you throw the ball, get your arm loose before you start throwing anything else.
First of all, get a young pitcher to use all of his body. Use the big muscles of his body and his legs, his rear end, and his back, rather than try to pitching with the arm. The arm just cannot take the entire strain of that type of pitching.
No matter what the position that you play in baseball, you have to throw the ball properly, and I think play the outfield, the infield, be a pitcher or a catcher, you have to throw overhand, and I feel like a lot of kids don't do this properly, and I think to progress in their career, they need to do this, and it takes a strain off their arm, and you'll have less arm injuries.
Stay away from the curveball till you're probably 13 or 14 years old. I believe a youngster that has a good fastball should rely more on that fastball and work on control. You can change speeds, you can move the ball in and out, but stay away from your curveball till you're 13 or 14 years old.
The only thing I could possibly say is to work hard at it. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to come easy. You're going to find a lot of times that things aren't going to work right, and you're going to feel like you want to quit, but you can't quit and win, so you have to work hard. That's the only advice I can give you, hard work.
I think the one thing that I would try to stress more than anything else in the world is the fact that he work on his control and concentration, because concentration and thinking as a pitcher means absolutely everything in pitching, because if you don't have that concentration, you're not going to be able to do the many, many, many things that are required of a pitcher.
Major League Baseball, in cooperation with General Mills, has brought you all-star pitching tips.
In today's world, it's food, fashion, fun and games with a capital G, General Mills.